Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our board meeting of Monday, July 26th. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate the ones who are here in the audience as well as the ones that are joining us virtually. First of all, I'd like to begin with the approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Next, if we could, please, we would just like to have a moment of reflection. If you could just take a few minutes and let's just reflect a little bit. Thank you very much. Now, if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next on our agenda is our school highlights. Ms. Rayner?
Thank you, Chairman Hughes, members of the board, Mr. Pye. We're delighted to have an opportunity tonight in a public setting to, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, to congratulate our 2021-22 District Teacher of the Year, Samantha Hoffman. Samantha. We, of course, were going to, at our Teacher of the Year celebration the end of May, we were going to recognize Samantha at the board meeting, but of course it had to be canceled. So we certainly are so thrilled to have her take on leadership of all of our 1,700 plus teachers in the district. And I think something that struck the selection committee when Samantha was going through the district process was her advocacy and her passion to groom and recruit young people to be teachers. And I think it doesn't get any better than that when you have a Teacher of the Year speaking for all teachers that truly is a teacher advocate. So we are very pleased. She's a teacher at Austin Middle School and also is a mentor to new teachers and has been working with teacher cadets for a number of years. So we have a certificate for you from the board. Would you like to say something? Good.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. All right, I wrote a couple things down just so I didn't forget what I wanted to say. All right, so as Ms. Rayner just said, my name is Samantha Hoffman, and I'm an 8th grade English teacher at Austin Middle School, and I am your 2021 Dorchester District 2 Teacher of the Year. I am honored to represent our fine school district, and I am excited for the upcoming opportunity to serve our students and teachers as well as the local community. I truly believe that there is no better place to be than in DD2 schools. It isn't hard to see all of the amazing things happening in our schools each day. As I stand before you today, I want to remind you that I am just one of the amazing educators employed by our district. I am confident that if you walked into any given classroom on any given day at my middle school, you would see passionate master teachers creating a sense of wonder and critical thinking for our students. I am proud to represent a district that I believe in so much. I am looking forward to all of the opportunity that this year promises. Thank you.
And in her role, Samantha will be co-chairing our teacher forum. So I look forward to a lot of activity with our teacher forum this year. We always appreciate, too, the opportunity to shine the spotlight on our school board. beyond just the one month of the year that is School Board Appreciation Month in January. And our board members work so very hard beyond board meetings, in addition to board meetings, through the South Carolina School Boards Association and the opportunities that they provide, everything from legislative conferences. Our own board chair, Gail Hughes, serves on the board of directors for that state organization, and all of our board members participate in trainings or the Boardsmanship Institute that is held throughout the year. And tonight, we would like to shine the spotlight on one of our board members who has been recognized by the South Carolina School Boards Association's Boardsmanship Institute for achieving level 1 through her participating in workshops and learning opportunities through that organization. And so we'd like to congratulate Ashley Wimberly for being a level 1. And certainly through that program, our board members have the opportunity to network with school board members from across the state, which at times has served us extremely well, even though we're usually the ones that have more to brag about, right? So, this is definitely the summer season, a very short summer break that we're having this year. But that doesn't mean things aren't happening in Dorchester District 2. We're very pleased that Learning by Design, the district staff development and learning opportunities for not just our teachers, but for all employees. More than 3,000 employees in our district have the opportunity to participate in workshops throughout this year, a 3-week period. It's a little new way that this usually is a one-day event held at several of our school sites. This year it is mostly on a virtual platform with workshops presented by our own experts within the district on curriculum, just everything you can imagine, classroom management, new programs at the state and national level. Our employees are certainly benefiting. Our school bus drivers are also participating in this along with other areas of the district. Some of our workshops are indeed in person for those that require hands-on, such as Stop the Bleed. Some of those very important tools for our employees to know about is being held in person. But we're getting a lot of great feedback. Most of the feedback we've gotten is appreciation for the virtual format. It allows our employees, our teachers, to participate on their schedule, at certainly as busy as they are during the summer, to really be able to take more workshops and benefit from that rather than in a one-day scheduled event. So as you can see, we have over 200 plus workshops, and many of those workshops are given in several sessions. So folks do have the opportunity to participate during the 3-week period. We are extremely excited that we have had several of our local businesses and regional businesses sign on to be sponsors. When we reached out to them, they were most supportive, most impressed with this innovative program to arm our employees to fill up their toolkit to be ready to go next school year. We would like a special thank you to Edmentum that has committed to be the title sponsor for the LBD program this year, and certainly our gold sponsors too, you can see up there, and they are posted on our website, and their contributions have been used to underwrite the workshops and the various operational things that have to be done in conjunction with this. We're very pleased, too, that a number of them have contributed door prizes so we can pamper our employees a little bit. So at this, as of today, I think we have 65 door prizes. And when our employees come back on the 9th of August, we will be doing a prize patrol and delivering all those goodies to the school sites to thank the ones that did participate in the LBD this summer. And a special thank you to Dr. Kenneth Wilson, who in his role as a Director of Staff Development for the district has worked the magic and pulled together a team of individuals in the district, throughout the district, to make this happen. And I know it was particularly a challenge because it's never been done through a virtual format before, but I definitely think it's here to stay to some degree because of the, it's been so embraced by our employees. So just like to invite you to go to our website and see a little about that. Do you have any questions? Certainly Dr. Wilson is here and can answer any that you might have. I think everyone's glad to have it back, and is building enthusiasm for the beginning of the school year, certainly. So thank you, and thank you, Dr. Wilson. And now we also had to delay the report. You all did receive the graduation statistic report from the 2021 graduating class, our seniors. This, of course, we sent out in a press release. It's on our website because there's certainly a lot of bragging points. We did see an increase in the number of graduates throughout the district this year, and it does include a number of honor graduates, distinguished graduates through those programs that is comparable to what has been in years past. Our scholarship total, we did see a little bit of drop over some of these years in the past, but certainly nothing, it's something we can still be very proud of when more than $33 million was offered to the seniors in our graduating class. Our summer school program that will end with graduation on Wednesday will add to the total number of graduates. We'll have 18 high school seniors that will be graduating on Wednesday as a result of the summer school program. So we're very, very proud of these bragging points, and certainly our high school program is one of strength and continues to grow with its success. So any questions that you may have on that? A lot of good things. Thank you, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Ms. Rayner. And before we move on the agenda, I would like to invite any of our guests that maybe came for just the highlights. If you would like to leave, you're welcome to do so now. Certainly, we'd like for you to stay. You're welcome to stay, but just in case there's anyone here that maybe would like to leave, we don't want you to, if you've got something else going on or whatever. So looks like everybody's okay with staying. So perfect. We're going to go on. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, public comments on agenda items, and we have no public comments on agenda items. So board members, in your packets, you should have received the meeting minutes for the meeting of June 14th and June 24th. Is everyone okay to do those in open session? Okay, I need a motion to approve those minutes, please. Motion made by Ms. Crosby. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Okay, next up is our superintendent's report, the state of the district. Mr. Pye.
All right. So just getting information from staff and getting it back to you. I've asked the staff members in charge of their two programs to give us an update on the summer programs. Even though they're not ending till next week, we already have, at least at the elementary level, surveys are out now, getting feedback from teachers and parents about how they perceive that program went. How can we make it better? What are some things we might want to avoid? In the future, we're going to be we've done this every year for many years, but this year was special because of the learning loss situation. We and the funding we were able to receive, we were able to really increase our numbers and opportunities, and we plan to do so throughout the year next year as well as next summer, to have the programs that are most successful repeated and have additional new ones to offer as we continue to move our students forward. So with that said, we'll start with the high school, Ms. Radcliff High School and Middle School.
Good evening. Mr. Pye was right. This summer has been extremely busy for really K-12. We had a lot of students involved in our programs. We were working on learning loss. For our middle schools, we had 2 middle school sites for our summer program. We used Oakbrook Middle School and Gregg Middle School. We offered 2 sessions, 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. And students could definitely utilize both those sessions or one. The different programs that we offered content recovery, our remediation program. We offered a literacy camp, a math camp. We also had many of our 8th graders moving to 9th graders involved in virtual classes. When we looked at the total number of students involved in our middle school programs, we had over 858 students that were involved in one of those programs. We had 35 kids that were involved in the literacy camps and 61 that were involved in the math camps. Now realize that a lot of those students that should be in those literacy and math camps were involved in the content recovery programs. We had over 654 students involved in the content recovery programs. So needless to say, middle school was extremely busy. They had transportation, also food services were also utilized for our middle school students. High school was very similar in that it was credit recovery only. We had 2 sessions offered Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 and 10 to 12. Again, the focus was on credit recovery. We had over 270 high school students that were involved in credit recovery. We had over 587 credit courses that were worked on through South Carolina Virtual. That is a free program, so a lot of our students utilize both of that. They use South Carolina Virtual for some of the initial credit earning. And like Ms. Rayner said, we have 18 of our students, our seniors, that are going to be graduating on Wednesday at 10 o'clock at the Performing Arts Center, so we'd love for you to join us if you're able to. Again, our high school students were also able to work in a literacy camp and a math camp. We also had manufacturing camp and an agricultural camp as well for our students to utilize. So we gave them lots of different opportunities to continue with their academic support. Could we always have more students involved? Absolutely. But I think that the students that were involved, I think they got a lot out of it. We had a lot of success. So we're proud of the product that we put out there. Our teachers did an amazing job helping our students move forward. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Radcliff, just 2 quick questions, just because I'm curious. What was the increase this year from last year when you had this, since we've been offering it?
Honestly, we didn't have summer school last year. We
Because of-
utilized all of South Carolina Virtual for our high schools.
Okay, so in the years past, was there a
That's
significant?
yes, ma'am, that's a pretty marked increase.
That's good to know.
Absolutely.
And you may not know this off the top of your head, but what was the ratio between student and teacher in middle and high school?
It really depended. It went anywhere from 15 to 1 to 25 to 1. It really depended upon what the coursework was.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about our elementary programs. Our biggest elementary program was our summer reading and math camp, and that was headed by Dr. Baird, or is still being headed by Dr. Baird, that we still have 1 week left to go, as well as Miss Clarissa Baisley and Miss Jenna Gallo. We have about 515 elementary students, K through 5, that are consistently attending summer reading and math camp, and about 45 teachers, which includes a media specialist at each one of our 2 sites, which are Newington Elementary and Windsor Hill, Arts Infused. We had 40 third graders that by the Read to Succeed legislation were required to attend. I'm happy to say that 31 of them have already met the state requirements, and we're hopeful that those other 8 or 9 will do so within this week. Our program actually exceeds what the Read to Succeed legislation says we must do, which is 3 hours of reading every day. We are currently doing reading, math, and then in the afternoon we're doing STEM activities, and breakfast and lunch are also served for our students. They go Monday through Friday this year from 7:15 until 2:15. And we are using the assessments, DRA, the Developmental Reading Assessment, RI, Reading Inventory, MI, Math Inventory, and STAR Reading and STAR Math to progress monitor and measure the growth in our students, because that has to be turned in to the State Department, particularly for the third grade that are mandated to come. Our parents are receiving weekly progress reports and lots of communication. And we are also piloting some math fluency programs, since we have a large number of students in K through 5th grade there, to determine what fact fluency program we want to use next year, and that's Reflex and Imagine Math. We are also using Dreambox, which, if you remember, is the math program that the State Department has purchased for districts if we wanted it through the next 3 years. As Mr. Pye mentioned, we sent out surveys this morning, actually late last night, for this week for parents to respond, for parents and teachers and students to respond to how they felt the summer reading and math camp went. And Dr. Baird was able to pull off a couple of those responses for me before we total them up. And so a couple of things parents said was, my child became more confident with his work. The STEM activities that my son participated in is what went well. My child gained more confidence in school than during the regular school year. His teacher for the summer reading math camp was very positive. So far, those that are coming in are sounding pretty positive. The teachers also felt like the STEM activities were something that they wanted to then make sure they carried over into their classrooms for next year, and they also enjoyed being able to do smaller differentiated instruction rotations as they went through the day. We had, I know Ms. Robinson asked about the class size numbers. In third grade, we are limited to 15 to 1 by the Read to Succeed legislation. So there's no more than 15 in the third grade classes. The other classes, we were allowed more than that, but I think, and Dr. Baird, correct me if I'm wrong, 22, 24 was about the size of some of those classes, although some of them were smaller, but those were the largest. Now I'm going to switch gears for a minute and go to 2 of our fine arts programs. STARTS, which is for first and second grade, was held for 2 weeks at the end of June. 117 first and second graders participated in that for a half a day every day, and that went very well. That was also held at Windsor Hill. And then we had over 250 third through 8th graders participate in Gateway, and that was held at Rawlings Middle School. They did not get to do a performance this year, but Mr. Walsh said that they did video and have some artwork, and so they're hoping to share that with the community soon. He said it was a great couple of weeks. One more addition that I'll talk about is that we also offered enrichment, as we always do, through our online programs that we kept open during the summer, and in excess of what Ms. Radcliff and I have talked to you about, we had over 1,000 students participate in our instructional technology summer programs. So we feel like we've met quite a few. I know a couple of things that weren't mentioned is we also held on a smaller scale our Miss Bishop's program for the extended day during the summer were held at a few sites. We definitely had that at Windsor Hill and Newington for those students whose parents weren't able to pick them up when we finished at 2:30. And Dr. Capoletti's Special Services Department also held the extended school year for our students this year as well. So our special education students were able to extend their school year through the summer. So, any questions?
I just had a quick question, and really out of curiosity, I probably should know, but I don't. The Read to Succeed legislation, does that bleed over, so private schools, charter schools, homeschool, are they under that same legislation?
Nope.
They are not.
So a private school, their third graders don't have to pass anything, they just get promoted and,
Correct.
interesting.
Now, we do have, Mr. Farnsworth, we do have what's called good cause exemptions. So if there is a third grader that, and those exemptions are, there are 7 of them. Anything from if they're an ESOL student that is, let's say a level 1, 2, or 3, just learning the English language. Of course, they're not penalized for this, so that would be a good cause exemption. Some of our special ed students that have been in the program, special ed program for 2 years, that would be an exemption, and there are others as well. So we do look at those exemptions, and so these students that we're talking about, the 40, do not currently have a good cause exemption. So our teachers are doing amazing work and performing miracles to get these students to meet that state requirement on the STAR reading test so that they can go on to 4th grade.
Gotcha, thank you.
Ms. Hughes, I just want to say this is so positive. And after the kind of year that the children experience, how nice. And that's why I wanted to know if the numbers increased from pre-COVID. And now that the spirit's caught on, maybe it will continue, because having this enrichment in the summer is just wonderful for these children.
And
so thank you.
And I didn't mention, but normally when it's a normal year, we address 2nd and 3rd graders to get them ready, the 2nd graders to get them ready. But this year, at Mr. Pye's request and parents as well, we opened it up to kindergarten through 5th. So we had more than double the number of students that we normally have for summer reading camp.
It's great.
Probably what was the greatest hindrance to us offering even more students? We served everybody that asked to be served, is that correct? Or do we have to cut it off in some places?
No, I think Dr. Baird was able to find, it got down to the wire, but we were able to find enough teachers.
It
And
was
that
the
was
teachers
probably,
that
that was the
dictated
biggest
the size of the
obstacle.
class, as well as if we could even offer it, because teachers really, many of them burned out, and they wanted to have their time with their family and what have you. So it was difficult recruiting, but we did get, for every child that wanted to be there and parents expressed an interest, we did serve them.
And they were rock stars, they really were. With having such a short summer, and still, we definitely have dedicated teachers, no doubt. Thank you.
Dr. Capoletti, would you like to add something from your department? 'Cause we don't want to leave your students out.
Extended school year is the name for a special summer school, and it's based on a team decision of whether each and every student will qualify for those kind of services, and it's based on a regression factor, so the kids that need it the most qualify and come. So we had about the same amount of students as we had every year, 400, which is a nice number, but the days were longer and there were more days. We worked Monday through Friday and longer days, and I think that allowed for greater service. We too struggled a little bit with teachers, but we found them, and the adult supports too are really critical for the program, because we wanted to divide and conquer, get the group small, shoulder to shoulder work, be diagnostic in the work, look at the IP goals to make sure that we were, filling the gaps. So we have kindergarten, or really preschool through 12th grade. So it's a broad spectrum of services. So we were in several elementary schools, and we pair with the elementary program, so we're at the same school sites. All the bus transportation was provided, the meals were provided, which was really, really nice. So we had every kind of program we have in the schools: cross-cat resource, autism, intellectually disabled, ID mild, moderate, and severe. We have all those programs working in the schools. And so Flowertown had PD through 5th grade, and it also had something we call speech camp. So speech services were a little difficult virtually, as you can imagine, with our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So we had designed a special speech camp this summer for the little ones, and they really enjoyed it. Their parents enjoyed them coming, and we had the children who were walk-ins to the community children who just are young but not in our schools who had speech services also. So we had our PD through 5 program at Flowertown and at Windsor Hill. We had Oak Brook Middle for our 6th through 12th graders. We had Somerville High School for Dorchester High School, Gregg Middle, and Ashley Ridge. They house our autism self-contained classrooms. So with our world, it's all about individuality. That's why it's called an individual education plan. So we serve some kids individually. Some of our kids need that individual approach to their education in a setting where they feel comfortable. So we had one student at Fort Dorchester High School, one big student at Fort Dorchester High School, and it was an ideal setting for him because that's where he was familiar with his classroom and his environment and the sensory needs and everything else that goes with it. So we had a nice crowd. The attendance was good. You know, there were more days and they were longer days, but the attendance was really good. Food service was great. Our transportation service, we provide transportation to all those kids and all those different, so transportation worked with us really, really well. Reading, math, those are the main goals, reading and math. And they did a great job of maintaining and filling gaps in what the children needed to get. We use the material that they ended with. It's not a whole new, let's start again. We pick up right where they left off. So, and then do more diagnostics and get them trying to maintain, because one of the problems with children with disabilities is memory, and it's constant recycling of the information. I want to tell you just a little bit about speech, and then I'll be quiet, because speech is really fun. Speech camp, well, let me say, Allie Williams was the coordinator that ran the ESY for reading and math. Candace Flagger is the coordinator who ran the speech camp. And speech camp is really fun. We try to make it hands-on, interactive, small group, speech therapist, and one of the unique things we were able to do is we got 16 graduate students to come to us to do their internship, and so we had all those extra young adults with us around the tables. And it was a great learning experience for our staff and also for those USC graduate students. I think that's in a nutshell. Questions? Thank you for supporting the programs. They're really needed, and we have a great time, and the kids benefit from them, so thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
All right, that's it for my report.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pye at all? No? Okay, then next will be our financial report. Ms. Meunier.
Good evening, Chairwoman Hughes, board members, Mr. Pye. I have a lot of fun stuff to talk about for finances tonight. I have a lot of things on the agenda, yay. So the first item is your May 2021 finance report. We'll go over the balance sheet first. As you can see with comparison from last year, we're a little higher in our assets. We shuffle it around a little bit between our cash and cash equivalents and our investments in the local government investment pool. So we had a little bit of extra savings shown there as of May. Our liabilities section is like right in line with May of 2020. We were paying and paying as we went, so we were doing good. And then our fund balance section, again, you can see our fund balance at the beginning of the year was higher. So at the end of May, our total liabilities and fund balance, as well as our total assets, balanced at $56,734,677. On the next page of your report, we have our scheduled revenues, expenditures, and changes in the fund balance. We have a call-in with Dorchester County because they assured us that our fee in lieu of taxes was coming on that first line, and we have not seen it yet. So they told us there was a timing difference in that, so we're still expecting it. So that line item looks a little bit lower than last year, but they're promising us that it's coming in. I want to point out, just as we've talked about in the past few months, that our EFA funding was a little lower this past year because of our reduction in students. We were able to lower that. We were able to get some relief with that In our ESSER 2 plan, the state allowed us to use some of our ESSER 2 money to make up for the loss of the students. So we were able to claim some salaries and benefits for some of the extra teachers that we still had on staff for the loss of those students. So our total revenues for the month were $192,352,313, which is just slightly lower than last year in May of 2020. As you can see in our expenditures, we're looking good. Our ideal remaining percentage should have been 8%. You see we have a really good percentage in the instruction category. It's at 21%, which is a little higher than last year. We have 2 months left of instructional salaries because contracts for teachers run August through July. So we pay through the month of July and accrue it back because it's for this current fiscal year. So we have 2 months left of salaries and benefits there, but we're still doing good. We see that we had some savings in our facilities line item. During the closures, we had some energy savings, so we have some savings in that line item. Unfortunately, as I've pointed out before, our business services, we have a negative percentage showing there because we had to pay higher unemployment costs this year. So that made our percentage higher in the negative, but we were able to cover it. So we are still showing a net change in fund balance, which is still a small increase over last year. On the next page of your report, you'll see our food service fund balance sheet. We're doing better than we were last year. We appreciate our partnership with Sodexo. We've been working very closely with them. In our liabilities and fund balance section, you'll see a negative $795,000, which in this report is really a good thing to have a negative there. It shows that we're doing better, much better this year than last year. We don't owe the general fund for expenditures in the food service fund. They're able to cover their own expenditures. So on our revenues and expenditures report for the food service fund, you can see that our USDA meal reimbursements were a little higher as of this time last year, and that is because the USDA recognized that there were higher costs for expenditures during this time, during the COVID pandemic, so they reimbursed us with a little bit of higher amounts. And we were able to work with Sodexo again closely to help them to cover some of those additional extra costs. You can see in the second section with the expenditures that our salaries and employee benefits are now in the purchase services line item since we work with Sodexo and they're paid through Sodexo. And as I noted when we were talking about the balance sheet, we were able to use some of our CARES funding to cover some of the salaries and benefits for the people who are still on our payroll. So we're doing well in our food service fund as compared to years before. So we're really happy to be working with Sodexo. The next report that's in your packet was the school activity fund balances. We have beginning balances that were as of the beginning of the school year, or beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st through May 31st. It's kind of awkward that we're still working in last year, but we're working to close out last year, and we're working in this new year. So this will probably be your last report that you see of 2021 until we get our audit report. That will be balances closed as of June of 2021. None of the balances looked out of line as of May 31st. Again, it was the schools weren't able to go on field trips and do many of the things that they, had hoped to do last year. So some of the balances may have been a little higher than the prior year, but they're holding on to that so they can hopefully do some fun things in this new school year.
So we're letting them carry that forward? Is that what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying? Good.
We wanted to work with them for that. It wasn't their fault that we had to deal with the pandemic.
So some of the issues that some of them may be reporting, we're looking at ESSER funds, but more importantly, anything that they already have, we're going to make sure that money that was raised for that purpose or given on behalf of that is used for these children that are here now. And that we're not bankrolling it. This is not the time for that. But we don't know of anything out there that's come to our attention as of yet that is of severe need that can't be covered with either ESSER or either with the monies they already have.
Yes, sir.
Some of the teachers in the different departments may not know what their school has or even how much was left in their account. And in past years, we have, at the end of the year, we have taken those funds from them. and put them in the district fund. It's unused funds, and we use it towards district projects. But because of all that went on last year and schools couldn't do any fundraising or any way, they had no way of raising money, that money was put back for them. So there's a little bit more there. We're dealing with that in the principals meeting tomorrow to maybe make sure there's a better understanding and we're not doing without things. That this is the time to make sure we didn't lose anything from last year, not only learning loss, but materials and other things that we have to make this the most successful year in the history of the district. We want to make sure we have things in place from day one and we're not scrambling to catch up or that we lose out on anything. So we're real pleased with that.
Exactly. I could not have said it better. Thank you, Mr. Pye. So those are the financial reports that I had for May of 2021 before I go on to any more reports. If y'all have any questions?
Yeah, question.
Sorry. Well, just in regards to what you were saying, I know you mentioned field trips, but could you just explain to me a little bit more besides just field trips, what the, this money, the activity fund money is used for?
In the school trust accounts, there are many, many different clubs and organizations that collect money during the year, and sometimes they purchase like steel drums. They'll purchase things for that club. So whatever they collect, and again, as Mr. Pye said, we weren't able to do a lot of fundraisers in this past year, and some of it was carryover from the prior year because the pandemic actually started. We were shut down in March, so we did have some carryover from the prior year as well. I can show you a whole
Yearbooks, like the high schools, why it's so high, that's all the monies we collected for that. And some of these things, the bills are yet to be paid. All right, because this was May 31st.
That
and
is correct.
They have to June 30th to pay up their bills.
So it's fundraising money?
That's some of it. It's any money it should be money that's been set aside that's encumbered for something else. It should not just be extra money, but with this being the odd year that it was, a lot of money might have been raised for various things that did not happen. That money is still there for that school to utilize. Most of the schools where they collected for field trips and things, we encourage them to refund the money back to the parent.
Yes,
We
that we
don't
did
sit
that
on
for the
it.
prior year.
If anybody paid us one dime, they should have received it back if they did not get what they paid for, because we couldn't help the circumstances. But we should be fine, and like I said, I don't know of any school that should be hurting going into this year because ESSER is going to pull us out, I think.
And the student fees are also shown in the general and operating section of all of the schools. So when they collect for the school fees at the beginning of the year, and then they use that for instructional supplies and for items like that for the general operating. Then the trust is for those different school accounts and such. And like Mr. Pye said, the yearbooks and items like that.
But we will be working with some of them because there's some very high amounts there. And I guess I'm concerned that if you're a middle school with 75,000 and your brothers and sisters and all the other middle schools have 5, I'm questioning, what kind of field trips were we planning to do? Is that going to be a
Like you
cruise
pointed
around
out,
the
Mr.
world?
Pye, they're not all for field trips. I don't have
I
a
was
whole
just
list of
teasing
them, right?
about that. I would like to know what that was for. And it may be back for band instruments and things like that, and upkeep of things like at Ashley Ridge. Some of that would be put aside for maintaining the agricultural program. It should have been from previous fundraisers and other ways that monies are gathered. If not, that's when it would kick in because they can't help, they couldn't raise the money. And the whole thing is based on the amount of funds we have is what we offer.
So just to clarify, sorry, so the general operating would be like the fees and that sort of thing, and then the trust would be money that the school has collected that's earmarked for specific projects.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yes, okay.
But we will be checking on that to make sure that that's indeed what that is, because we're not operating savings accounts and things like that. That's not what this money's for. It's to be used on this year's children.
And I just had 2 quick points, and really the last one. It's interesting because the Ashley Ridge piece that came up last week, I guess it was, talking about the farm.
Let's use that as an example.
What was interesting, when you really think about it, you think about the programs we've got in the district, that one is very, very unique in that it continues no matter what. There are animals, there's costs and different stuff, so it's just very interesting. So I think maybe a high-level discussion on how we approach that in the future to make sure that we don't, they and we don't run into that in the future.
I want to think that when we establish the program, it's a Kate program, Kate should be setting aside enough funds to do the basic. Now, if they want to buy a new tractor and all, that may be something they have to raise funds for.
Absolutely.
And now, if
And
it
that's what I'm saying,
breaks
it's
and
just-
it's not there, the district will certainly provide the tractor, because that's the main
Right,
source of
right. We can, we
operating.
can pay for the big items such as that, but the consumables and small things aren't covered by Kate, but they can be covered by other school funds or other
Sure.
district funds.
Yep. And then the other thing, going back to the unemployment benefits, can you talk about that just a little bit more, Tina? Is that due to more benefits being paid out, or is there a higher percentage that we paid in to unemployment?
We don't pay into unemployment. As the school district, we pay as the claims come in. We did have some claims that we felt were not accurate, so we sent in a discrepancy, for lack of a better word, to the Department of Workforce, and they were looking into that, and as they collect, if it was paid inadvertently, they will send it back to us. That will take a while. But we had a lot of claims this current year. When we were closed, when the school district was shut down, some of our employees, the hourly employees, filed claims.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Meunier, can I just ask real quick, do we do an annual contract with Sodexo?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
so it's annually? Just wondered.
That was 1 year.
1 year? Thank you.
Tina, with some of these funds that are here, some of them are pretty large numbers, and I understand the situation was kind of odd, but we are also checking, right, that the funds that were raised are being utilized for the students who raise those funds, correct? We're not just, the students raise funds or whatever, and then they're spent on the next year's children.
Right, as Mr. Pye said, sometimes they do have fundraisers that they're trying to save up for maybe multiple years.
And that's
to buy large
understandable.
instruments, or
Right.
to buy new costumes, or something large like that, or maybe a new steel drum set, so some of those things. So when they submit a carryover request to us, they give us justification for that.
Well, and isn't that usually approved by the Booster Club or the PTA board or whatever? They approve that it can, the
These are funds
fundraiser's
that-
like a 2-year or 3-year fundraiser, so you know that?
These are monies that are collected and come through the club accounts at the schools.
Right.
To
So it's not through
include
the
those groups
boosters.
you just mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, because I can remember in PTA, we would, and I know Ms. Rayner can remember, and Ms. Wimberly, we knew that a project would take maybe 3 years, but we had to vote to approve it, and of course, it came through the district. I mean, it went through the district, so just wanted to clarify that too, so
Thank you.
it was approved by a
So-
board or a booster club.
So within these funds, what you're saying is within these funds, some of these situations are in these
Yes, ma'am.
totals?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And as Mr. Pye said, there are some encumbrances that are hanging out there that we have to pay. Like you can see for Ashley Ridge Trust account, there's $30,000 encumbrance. It's most likely for their yearbooks, because their yearbooks, they collected the money, and then they have to pay out the invoice, which we haven't received yet.
Right.
So
I just-
that's happened
Most
in a
of
lot of
all the
these trust
yearbooks are still in the
accounts.
high school accounts, I think.
That's why theirs are so large, yes.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
I just want to make sure that the
Okay.
funds that are raised are spent on the students that
Right.
raise the funds, and
We
they're
do
not
too.
held over and.
Right, we do too.
So, yeah.
So we
Okay.
asked for that justification.
All right,
Just-
I'll tell you where the big dollar amount is to prom. Big portions of that money went to the prom. Proms are very expensive.
They did collect a lot, but they had large expenditures this year because.
They didn't collect as much as they got, let's put it that way. They got a lot, most of it, but we went over because the turnout wasn't what we've had in past years.
Because we had
because
to
of the-
limit it for social distancing.
Yes, sir, ma'am. So all that's taken into consideration, but that money is probably still there, not paid out. At least on May 31st, they had just occurred. So the
Correct.
bills had not
So
been paid.
You're right. It's a timing issue for a lot of these. You're right.
You'll see it on the next one. The next one should be hopefully reduced
They'll come down, good deal.
in time.
Anybody have any other questions, comments? Okay.
So if y'all are okay with those reports, we can move on to the next item I have.
Okay, Mr. Farnsworth made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item that we have uploaded in your board packet was the annual Minority Enterprise Report. So each year, we have to report to the board the annual spend in our fiscal year for 2021, as required by this, bless you, as the state procurement code requires us to do. So for this current year, we spent $833,666.76 with minority businesses who tell us that they are minority businesses. When a new business comes into request to do business with us, we have a specific place on their W-9 that we can ask them, are you a minority business? Unfortunately, this spend was lower than the prior year, and I'm very sure it was because of COVID, because we were closed and we were holding tight for expenditures that were non-essential for this past year. So we have that minority enterprise report, which, for your consideration, it would require acceptance by the board.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, I will entertain a motion. Ms. Crosby makes the motion to accept it. Mr. Farnsworth seconds the motion. Now, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? 7-0.
Okay, great. Now, the last item that I have for your consideration also is a resolution that was uploaded to your board packet to issue bonds through our annual Fall SCAGO program that we work with the South Carolina Association of Governmental Organizations. This is our short-term bond that we ask for y'all to consider each fall to pay for our installment purchase revenue bonds and for our equipment acquisition loan payments. The installment purchase revenue bonds were issued when we constructed the buildings through the growth program, when we were constructing Eagle Nest and Ashley Ridge through that growth program. And then also for the equipment acquisition payments that we have each year for leases for our teacher laptop refresh and for equipment for our new middle school. This bond will help to cover those payments. Again, it's short term, so it will be paid off in March of 2022. So if you are so inclined for a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not exceeding $30 million general obligation bonds in one or more series in one or more years with appropriate series designations, including a tax-exempt series and a taxable series, if appropriate, of School District Number 2 of Dorchester County, South Carolina.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Robinson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on the agenda is our Facilities and Construction Report. Tony Souls.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm happy to say that we are nearing the end of the fire alarm system at Somerville High School. We got a overhead inspection with OSF scheduled for Wednesday, and if that goes well, we will turn right over and do a final inspection on the fire alarm system. So keep fingers crossed on that one. At the Somerville Elementary bus loop and parking for the district office over behind Somerville Elementary, that's going well. They are scheduled to pave this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, to do the loop, the parking behind Somerville Elementary, and everything in front of the district office, the new district office. And then next week, they were going to switch over to the smaller parking area that we have beside what we call the horseshoe beside Somerville Elementary. They're going to pave that area in there next week. So there's been some challenges. That project has suffered through 2 tropical storms with lots of rain in between those tropical storms and during those tropical storms. We've had some unsuitable soil issues throughout the entire course of that project. And just, again, copious amounts of rain, and I'm surprised to say that the contract finish date is July 31st, and they're going to be pretty darn close on that, so I'm very happy with the performance that they've given us over there. The hardware replacement for this summer is complete. We've got 4 schools done. There are just a few little odd and end locks here and there that our locksmith can take care of after the fact. So next year, the only remaining school we have left to rekey and put new hardware in is Somerville High School, and that's probably going to be a summer-long project. Over at the new middle school site, they are grinding and clearing debris on the other side near the wetland. The footings are being poured for the school. They're starting some slab work this week and putting in some masonry unit. And they're going to start on the gymnasium end with the cafeteria and start pouring concrete that way. Stormwater management and sediment cleanup after the storms last week has been posed a challenge to them, but all in all, the schedule is still on track for completion of August of 22. District office renovation. We had an opportunity to meet with the general contractor and the architect last Friday to discuss the preliminary punch list items. Many of those will probably be completed before our OSF inspection on August 2nd. The only documentation they need for OSF is the LLR letter from the elevator company, or not the elevator company, but the elevator inspection from LLR. And LLR was on site today, and they never called me back, so I hope no news is good news. And like I said, the OSF final inspection will be August 2nd. That's the biggest part of it.
I have one question right off. Excuse me. It'll be quick. I'll make it quick.
Yes, ma'am.
The question that I have is on the stormwater over behind Austin. We've had a major issue with that stormwater runoff over there. Has that been improved? We'd spoken with the county on that, and I know we did some work with the stormwater runoff during our construction over there. Has that been improved, or is that still an issue? I just heard you say something about it proposed a little bit of
At Austin?
behind Austin, between Austin Middle School and Austin Bailey, the road that goes there, there's a stormwater runoff that runs off there from the town.
Oh, okay. We did improve that. There was a huge puddle. I think that's the 800 wing, maybe 900 wing that comes right there, and there was a large puddle in the roadway. And what we did was we created a swale from the asphalt over to the existing swale and put a drain down into the existing storm drain. And the last time I was there after a rain or during a rain, that water was flowing exactly the way it was supposed to flow and taking care of that.
Well, I'm not sure if that's the area or not. It may be, but the area that I'm referring to is the area that it actually affected a building that we had because the stormwater was such a problem that it was the old band room or something.
We tore it down, yeah.
The band room was torn down, I know, but that's the area that the stormwater was an issue.
Right behind the school where the new fine arts is probably built.
Okay, so, all right.
So is
When
that
they
the area that
built
you're referring
that new
to?
parking lot, when they built that new parking lot in the bus loop, all that
Yes.
stormwater now goes to a retention pond that's right behind that building.
So that's where the improvement was
And that
made.
retention pond controls all the stormwater around there.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know,
And there's
because-
also another one, a larger one over behind Austin, Bailey, next to the ball field back there. So those retention ponds are doing what they're designed to do.
Yeah,
And
that I
that's-
wanted to make sure, because I knew that we had those two buildings, right, that were being affected by the stormwater runoff, so that's why I was, you kind of worried me a little bit
that's
there when
under
you said
control.
something about the stormwater issue. Ms. Crosby?
Two things. Mr. Pine, I had asked you if you would check with him when we could go and view it.
And he should be reporting on that. Do you have that for us tonight? I know I'd asked
When we could go
Lee.
see the Rollins, old Rollins?
So the best week to do that would probably be the week of the 9th or the week of the 20th.
Either one of those weeks is fine with us. We want to get OSF
16th,
out.
excuse me, the 16th, the week of the 16th.
but not in the district office.
Class sizes are pretty
We're
small.
not there with the trailers.
I hope.
No, we're not moving, we won't move that early. We moved the moving back. Since
Yeah.
OSF keeps moving us back, we moved the moving back.
Okay.
We don't want to move on the first week of school, that's not a good week.
Yeah,
Well, and I don't,
you said first with the office being.
But
I
we,
don't-
My second.
go ahead.
I don't think that it's good for us to go and tour the facility the first week of school either, because that's when everybody's so swamped with going to the school, so nobody will be there.
We'll
It's
probably
better,
take 2 days.
yeah,
It-
yeah.
It's probably best right that the week of the 9th, I would think. I know we've got the OSF inspection on the 2nd, and they're going to want to do some punch list stuff the week of the 2nd. They've got 30 days, by contract, they've got 30 days to do punch list stuff.
We're that
So-
close.
So I think,
But the 9th is what he's proposing, the 9th or the 20th,
or the 16th,
or the 16th.
or the week of the 16th, I think that would fall. But that's when.
I don't think
when
that's a
the
good
school
week,
starts.
not first week of school.
Tony, the other
Okay.
question I have, I happened to notice when I went in, like where you turn in to go into Goodwill, right there off of Orangeburg Road,
Yes, ma'am.
that fence behind, Knightsville, it's falling over. Is that our fence or is that their fence? It's a wooden fence.
I'll have to look at that. I don't think we have any wooden
We don't have any
fences.
wooden fence. It shouldn't be ours.
I think
I
that
happened
belongs
notice
to.
It's like leaning this much. and I
Is it
just didn't
between
know about-
O2, is it between O2 Fitness and the parking lot right there?
Yes, between Goodwill
Yeah.
and the back of Knightsville wing right there. But I just didn't know.
Let
if
me,
that
let me
was our
check on
fence
that,
or-
Ms. Crosby. I'll check on that for us. And
But you said it's not our fence, Mr.
I don't think it is. I know of no wooden fence that we have. We wouldn't put up a wooden fence.
I mean, it's old, you know, it's
When I was principal at Knightsville, all those, we have no wooden fences out there. It was
No, I
all
didn't think so.
replaced with metal fences, and that lane, we had some dogs running in, so it was all like a metal fence around that whole perimeter. So wooden fence is not ours at Knightsville.
okay. No problem. I just had to see, didn't know if it was falling down. Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Souls.
thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is our personnel report. Board members, in your package, you should have received the recommendations and resignations for the 21-22 school year. If no one has any objection to doing those in open session, I will need a motion to approve those. Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Unfinished business. A report from SMEG, Ms. Crosby and Mr. Souls.
I did talk to Jimmy Tucker today. Ms. Pye, you did too. But we
Every
can't
day.
share it with- Every day?
Every day I talk with him.
Bless your heart. Anyway, there's something in. About that. There's something in the works, but we can't divulge it right now. Right, Mr. Pye? He asked us not to say anything about it yet.
There's so many things he has in the works. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but when it's
Those
appropriate.
bleachers,
It's okay to tell that.
no, it's not. He told me not to say anything.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that. We've already got it approved by OSF, and the whole world knows about it in Columbia, so they might as well know about it in
The
Somerville.
name,
Oh, no, not that.
that's what I said.
Oh,
We
that's
can't tell
kinda,
Well, then
that's
let's
up to
don't.
him. I'm not sure I felt about that, but that's their decision, that y'all's decision. That's what you want, because that's your part of the,
And he
the
hasn't
program.
talked to a couple of people yet, that's the reason.
yeah, I think he needs to explore that deeply. However,
talk about it.
no, we are, what she referred to at first, the bleacher area is gonna be turned into a park. There's gonna have a stone flooring, and there's gonna be a statue there with Coach McKissick and Mrs. McKissick, a bronze statue that won't probably be here to October. All that's being really beautified by the town. That's their contribution of the money to go along with their AstroTurf and the new lights and the new paint and all the stuff they're doing and the fencing. They've done quite an overhaul of that stadium. But we had to improve the handicap seating that were in the end zone seats. So the end zone seats will be taken down, stored at the stadium in October. They're supposed to be moved to Ashley Ridge and to Fort Dorchester High School, split between them, where we're pouring cement slabs to put them up for, I think it's track at Ashley Ridge, is that correct? The track area somewhere over there, and I believe it's the football stadium at Fort Dorchester. We'll be using those bleachers. They're in great shape. It's just they're not needed at Somerville, and they want to improve the handicap seating. They will go up like they do at Clemson, for example. They're right there on that ledge in the wheelchair, and they see there's no ramps to go up and no climbing, and there'll be park benches beside every possible wheelchair, so family members can sit with their families, and everybody's right there along that fence, not with anybody in front of them. It'll be the best seat in the house, so that's going to be greatly improved for our handicapped citizens. They've got a lot of people contributing money, and they're raising a lot of funds, and of course they're wanting to recognize those folks in different ways, and they're being very creative, and so they continue to get information for us at whatever point that we need to talk about it. So that's what you're referring to, but I didn't know it was a secret, but if it is, it is. Okay, thank you.
Did he tell you it was a secret, Tony?
He did?
So I hope you haven't been out telling people.
I haven't had time. I'm on the phone talking to him all the time.
Well, it's okay. What we need to know about is what's affecting our stadium. We don't, at this point, it doesn't matter to us if they're choosing a name or whatever, so I'm fine with that. We just need to know, we just need an update on what's happening to our stadium.
That's true.
So,
So
thank
Jimmy's
you
out
very
there.
much.
You're okay with it. Do whatever you need to do, right? Covers
it.
property listing.
Okay, so, anybody have any questions or comments on that? Okay. Next is our board committee reports, and we're going to begin with our policy committee, and that's Ms. Crosby.
The policy committee did meet extensively. These policies will be posted on the website tonight for your review or to look at them. This is the first reading. IE, Organization of Instruction. IG, Curriculum Development, Adoption, and Review. IA, Instructional Goal and Learning Objectives, Philosophy of Education. And ADD on face coverings. So they will be posted after this meeting tonight.
Okay, that's coming from committee, so we need no motion or no first. We do need a second on that.
I'll second.
Ms. Robinson seconded that motion. Is there any discussion or any questions?
I had a question on, so IG specifically, so that's the Curriculum Development, Adoption, and Review. A couple questions there. I know Mr. Pye, has it been a year now? So I know you had created that official curriculum review team. Do we need to look, because I know this policy specifically looks at review items. Do we need to look at putting that into this?
I had that
policy?
same question, since we did that, and that's not something most districts do. They all do, like we do with the library, has this kind of a secret committee that checks on books that are questionable or whatever, and they make a decision as to what happens to the book if it's questioned. And it's anonymous of who was on the committee, so they're not lobbied or threatened and those kinds of things. And we have not met in years. So somebody out there is forming this committee when it's needed, and I'm not even supposed to know who they are either. But we copied that idea, and we have 18 people on ours. And we've had one issue that was brought to us earlier, and I think it was resolved with that what they were worried about, we weren't even teaching. It's not taught in Dorchester 2 and would not be taught if it did not match the standards, the South Carolina standards, and this committee would review that. If it wasn't already settled in Columbia, nothing new would be added to our plate without going through this committee of my curriculum folks that understand it has to, if it's going to be curriculum, it has to match the South Carolina standards.
Mr. Farnsworth, just to add on, when we had our meeting, I asked the question too, like, because we had questions about guidance that people had said, and we had questions about the different kind of books or whatever, and Mr. Pye told me that they meet with like the guidance people, and they're going to have that discussion, and they meet with the book library people, and so I did ask that too, because I was concerned how it was going to be addressed, other than what we've addressed in here, so they assured me, and Ms. Canaris.
Yeah, and I guess what I was getting at, I just don't know if we want to codify, whatever, in policy to say, and you don't have to name, of course, specific committee members, but to say, under the superintendent, we have a committee that reviews curriculum questions, because I think what we're seeing now, we're all getting a lot of questions on curriculum across the board. And so I don't know, I think if we put that in policy to say we have that committee, and then B, on top of that, I think we need to do a good job of publicizing it, so I don't know, on the website, wherever we need to put that, to say, if you have a curriculum-related question, anything to do with curriculum, if you're concerned about something, if you've seen something, if you've heard something, this is how you, whether we have an email, whether we have a contact, whatever that is. So I think maybe two things. I think for me, if there's a way to put that into the policy somehow in a generic way, and then B, to publicize that review committee.
No problem.
Yeah, and we did have a discussion about that, Justin, because I was at the policy committee meeting as well. And we had the discussion on that, and we were told basically what Ms. Crosby said, I guess Mr. Pye told her, there was a committee that justifies every book that goes on in our library, as well as, our,
No, that's not what I meant to infer, because that's not true. The librarians pick the books, period. They have complete control of that, and that's what they do. And they work together to share popular books and those kinds of things. If a book is contested, if a parent or a teacher, or me, and I'm liable to be one of those folks, had a problem with a particular thing, it would go before this committee with my reasoning behind it. The committee would look to see, if it's a genuine thing. Most of the time, rather than the topic, it really should be the content, and it should be the level. Some things are not appropriate for first and second graders. It's above their understanding level. Other things are fine for high school kids. And that may be the difference, because they're old enough to pick and choose. But we don't want things in our possession as a school district that's there just for controversy. We're there to teach kids. And the library is a supplemental program to the curriculum that we have, but it's supplemental. It's not our teaching. So that's why we have the separate library committee rather than the committee that I have. Mine's about curriculum, and it should have already been vetted in Columbia, or vetted already at the district office. However, it's possible something could be out there that is being used that we're not even aware of, and when it's challenged, rather than pick up the phone and say, get it out of your classroom immediately, that's not fair to our professionals, who should have the judgment to know what to do and not to do. So with a proper policy in place, reminding people of that, and in-service training on what is and is not maybe appropriate, and how we should look at things, and then the process of reporting something if you have any doubt in mind, and the same thing to encourage the public. When you ask me, how do I know what goes on the four walls of the classrooms in every room in this district, every day, every minute? Nobody in the world could know that but God himself. That is not that. How we do is we depend on, when principals check the lesson plans of teachers, the pop-in visits, the co-planning with the team, and the team checks each other. We don't think maybe we ought to go down that road or whatever it might be. Let's go ask an assistant principal or principal. And then, or they call the district office and ask some of our folks, the interventionists, to come to the school and work with them on that. And then again, if they do it, the students, in most cases, some student will report it somewhere, somehow, or if there's a book that's inappropriate or pamphlet or whatever, that child, when it brings it home, the parent sees that, and the minute they need to notify us immediately, and we will certainly check on that and make sure that it's the way we say it's supposed to be. Again, you don't know until you are told about it.
That probably the quickest way we'll know about something is through the child. But
Always.
I know that I used to have a whole set of elementary, of course, books in my room, like book baskets or whatever. But especially in the high school, I mean, if teachers have got books in their cabinets or whatever that are their own books, but they're not appropriate, that's what Mr. Pye is talking about, that we would need to.
Yeah, and again, the only thing that I'm saying, and those are two different things, right? The honest answer is,
Yeah.
we've got policy that deals with library books as well, so we probably need to reexamine that policy to say, hey, do we have this all I'm saying is we need to have the process, because folks, when they read our policies, because we operate by policy, when they read our policy, they need to understand
The rule or something.
this is the process. If you have an appeal, if you have a question about curriculum, if you have a question about a library book, here's how you go through, here's who you go to, here's how you go through that process. That's it. And so I think you either do that in the policy, or you do it as a rule to the policy, but I think it's got to be in the policy somewhere.
Ms. Graham, do you need to weigh in on this? I can see your, come to the podium.
One of the things, Mr. Pine, is
I agree with
you know, we don't specify that in every, you know, all the way through the book, we don't say how to take care of every problem.
Right.
We don't say, you know, specify how to take care of every problem, so I think that would be the same thing, it's just, people just know to call the district office or call the principal, because I mean, there's certainly a chain of command, they need to go to the principal first.
And that's what I'm saying, they don't know that right now. They don't, the majority of folks right now have no idea that we have this curriculum review team that's been put in place. I guarantee you they don't. And so I just think we need to have that somewhere in policy. So what you're getting ready to say, yes, listen, it's only first reading, so you can go back, we can add language.
Yes,
And then
we
on
can.
our second and following reading.
Absolutely, absolutely. It can be added. Yes, he can add his own language to this, and then it will have to come back through for a first reading again, and then a second reading, because this has to be 2 unchanged readings before it can actually pass.
So, but do we like need to bring the committee back together, so do you think that's what we need to do? I mean,
Well, it has to be, it's going to have to be changed, and what'll happen is, come on up, Christie.
we need to have the committee meet again.
He can send it back to, it will be sent back to committee for the change to be made, so that the words can
Decide
be
if
correct.
the change needs to be made.
I think it should be made.
I'm just asking, I'm just, so I know.
Yeah, the committee ultimately presents it to the board, and then the board votes it up or down.
Right, okay, I understand.
So that's, yes, to answer your question, yes.
Because I really do. We can go ahead with this first reading, and that's fine, and then go ahead and do it on second reading. If we change it at some point, I just think at some point, we need to revisit this policy, as well as now that we talked about the library policy, I think we need to revisit that policy, and just have that added at some point. So I'm okay with what the policy committee is presenting here. I think it's important, these changes that are in here are important. Deviation from the teaching of state content standards may result in disciplinary action. It's been a long day. You got to teach in compliance with federal and state law. Those are important changes that are coming in this policy, and so I don't want to wait. I think we need to go ahead and get these in place. But moving forward very quickly after this is in place, we need to get those additional changes in there.
And this is just my feeling, and Ms. Canarans, if you want to weigh in on this, but I kind of think that we should go ahead and get it the way we want it, and then go, because we'll be delayed again after the fact. So if we go ahead and we just make what changes that board members feel need to be done, then, or make notation of that, take it back to committee, and then come back for first reading on this, I think my personal opinion is that's the best way to do it, so that we get it all done at one time and it's done. We don't go back to it.
Love it.
Ms. Canarans, are you good with that? I mean, you feel okay about that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm fine either way. So is Dr. Huggins and the rest of the group to bring it back. I think the other policy that you're referencing, and why I can see it moving forward as it's presented now, to go ahead and get the changes in place prior to the beginning of the school year that you want changed, and then bring this policy along with, I believe it's IJL, which is the one with the media resources that does specifically, as a matter of fact, I looked at that policy today, that does speak to the Public Citizens Committee that Mr. Pye was referencing there, and then we can maybe have language, and it may be in a rule, more appropriate in a rule than in the actual policy, but those two languages kind of mirror one another, even though one committee is known individuals and one committee is unknown individuals. So again, it's really a flip of a coin to go either way, move forward. If Mr. Farnsworth is okay with that and everybody else is okay with that, move forward with what the committee suggests tonight, and then in the next month or so, bring those two policies along with others we have in the hopper back to, again, update it. And we've had to do that. My very first year, we had to do that with the social studies policy because the State Department, like every 3 weeks, changed something, and then we had to go back, and I knew y'all got tired of hearing about the social studies and health education policy. But it's not unusual to do it, but again, it's the will of the majority of the board.
So, Ms. Hughes, we will, so, if it's all right, we're going to leave it as it is right now, and all the other ones, any questions on any of the other policies that we named, of the other three? Any
Nope.
questions on those? Okay, and then the committee will meet, I'll get Ms. Canaris whatever day we can meet, and look at that other policy to go along with it, and come back to you. Is that okay?
That's fine, if that's what everybody wants to do. Is everybody good with that? Everybody good with it?
Yes, I'm kind of like what she said.
Well, that's what she said.
That is what you're saying, okay, then that.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, all right, so everybody's good with it, so I have my second, we just need to vote. Okay, all in favor? 7-0. Okay, next on the agenda is our legislative committee, Ms. Robinson.
I have some good news and some so-so news. The good news is that 15% cap that we've been held to for forever has been lifted, but the so-so news is it's a proviso, and that means it's only good for this year. But I want to read it, and then because it has everything to do with finances, I've asked Ms. Meunier a few hours ago if she would mind, because she's the financial wizard, giving us kind of an update of what that means. But let me quick read this. It's not very long. It's 1-.90. In the current fiscal year, the provisions of Section 3 of Act 593 of 1992, as amended relating to the limit on cash reserves, are suspended for Dorchester County School District 2. The cash reserves may consist of state or federal funds allocated to the school district pursuant to this act, as well as other funds. Ms. Meunier?
Yes, ma'am. So while this is good news, it would have been better if it would have been completely taken off the books. So we're still held to the cap. The only school districts in the state that are held to this cap are Dorchester 2 and Dorchester 4 across the whole state. It is recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association that you have at least 2 months' worth of cash reserves. That helps with emergencies. 2 months' worth is 16%. So we're limited at 15% based on state legislation, just for our county.
Does that mean is there still a cap above that, or does that mean it's over?
So for the 21-22 school year, as Ms. Robinson read, in the current fiscal year for this new budget year, we will not have a cap of 15%. So unless it's repealed, then the following year it will go back to the 15%.
I was just wondering, did they say how high it could go?
Is suspended, so there would be no limitation. And it's helpful for us in many ways to not have this limitation. So the bond rating agencies look at us, and if they determine that we have a healthy fund balance, then our interest rates are lower. So when we do GO bonds like what y'all just passed a few minutes ago, our interest rate could be lower if our if our fund balance were higher. We live at the coast, so sometimes there could be emergency situations like we had with Hurricane Hugo. Knock on wood, we haven't had that lately, but if there were a time when we didn't have cash coming into us, we would have some cash savings, which this is what the cash flow is, the fund balance. We don't even have 2 months' worth to pay our salaries and benefits for 2 months if we're still limited with this cap. Also, we don't receive our property taxes from the county until December, so while the state does pay us little along, we're using our fund balance, so we're using the cash reserves that we have during the year until we get those monies from the county. So it's very important for us to have this cash reserve. If there's anything else we can do to encourage the legislators to just repeal this completely, that would be great. And we tried. We had a great push this past year, and we had even done it the year before. As Hughes and I were talking about, maybe after the new legislative session comes back in January, let's do it again. So we can remind them, this is very important for our school district if we could have this repealed. Was there anything else that we had talked about that you wanted me to mention?
That was perfect.
Okay.
That's my report. Thank you for helping me with it.
Can I ask real quick, so what, even though I don't foresee it with our budget that we all see, I don't think we would get our cap up much above 15% over the next year, but what if we got to, say, 20% and then the cap comes back in?
Right, that would be horrible. I will say that at the end of this current year, I feel like, based on the financials that were just reported to you, we're going to have a savings this year. I mean, we had school closures, so we had some energy savings. We didn't spend all of our instructional supply money. So odds are our fund balance will go up. And we are right at the 15% limit as we ended June 30th of 2020. So any savings that we had in this current year, if we didn't have this lifted for this current year, because we were, they did suspend it for the prior year in a budget proviso, we would be in trouble right now. So it would be harmful if we were to have that extra savings, and then we would have to spend maybe more quickly than what we had planned, and maybe we wanted to save this for a program in the future years, because we have the ESSER monies coming into us right now to help us to catch up with learning loss. So it would be detrimental.
That might be a good topic for our legislators to understand. Hey, if we get this thing up and then all of a sudden you put that cap back on us, you're really going to put us in a world of hurt.
Well, it's time for our quarterly meeting with them again. Well, anybody's welcome to come.
And I would just point out, and it really is nothing against them. The town, last I checked, was 20% plus in their general fund. The county at one point was 43%.
Right.
And we're capped at 15.
It's ridiculous.
And our percentage looks higher because we have a higher budget. So I think maybe that's part of their perception, is that it's higher dollars. But the percentage still, we have to have that much to get through at least 2 months' worth of paying our folks who are vital for our operation. So we'll try again.
Yes, we will. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Ms. Robinson, and thank you, Ms. Meunier. Okay, next on the agenda, we have public comments, and I have one public comment, and that is Mr. David Neal.
Good evening. Again, my name is David Neal. I'm a 30-year veteran of teaching all levels of high school biology. I was varsity head football coach at Stall for many years. And since I've been allotted 3 minutes, I have 3 points. I have attended several of these meetings. I've attended many community meetings within our own community, both apolitical and political. And so I'm speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking for a lot of people. And 3 concerns. On what authority does this board have to legally lock out tax-paying citizens like myself out of a public building in Dorchester County? The doors were locked. We couldn't enter. Their comment?
We are not.
The doors were locked. The deputy sheriff was there, and we could not enter this building.
We are not allowed to comment on,
I knew you were going to say that.
yes.
All right? But I left my number on that card,
Yes, sir, we have it.
therefore, and my email, so I would like an answer to that question, because I felt like my constitutional rights were taken away from me. Also, being a science teacher for many years, the science of the mask, I know y'all voted on a face covering tonight. The science of the mask, I've studied in great detail. They have been proven that masks preserve bacteria in children and adults, especially long-term wearing. They preserve the bacteria. Therefore, you breathe it back in your lung. Rather than prevent the intrusion of the particles of a virus that are 1/3 the size of bacteria cells that an N95 mask were made to protect you from. Therefore, no mask can protect you from this virus, especially the cloth coverings that we wear here and that we're required to wear. And so that needs to be thought through thoroughly before it's imposed again on our students, my grandchildren, and myself coming into this building. And the third and final point, I think I'm about out of time, please study critical race theory. Study it individually, study it in your groups, study it in your families. But it needs to be studied thoroughly because this is anti-American history. And I grew up loving American history. And yes, we made mistakes, but we all make mistakes. We're human. Please consider these.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Okay, next on the agenda is I need a motion to go into executive session for legal advice.
Motion to go to executive session.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. We'll be returning after the executive session. Okay. Okay, I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? By Mr. Farnsworth. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, no action was taken in our executive session, so I guess I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Guthrie, do I have a second? Ms. Wimberly, all in favor? 7-0. Good night, everybody.